Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast in association with Simco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Hey guys, it's really nice to know that so many people are subscribing to this. If you're one of the people who haven't subscribed, it's a good way to make sure that you get the latest content all the time. And this is where you can share these tips and ideas with your sales teams in the motor trade to help you sell more cars, make more money, and improve your service department. And today, I want to talk about one of the worst things you could say to a customer in a car sales environment. Actually, no, that's a bit silly. One of the worst things you can say is, when's the baby due? And the lady's not pregnant. That's pretty bad if you've ever done that one, okay? But listen, one of the worst things I think you could say to a customer, and I bet you hear this every single week in a dealership, in your dealership. And that's the phrase, is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? It sounds logical, but is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? I think there might be three problems with that, okay? Now, of course, we're doing that to see, is there anything we can do to get the customer to buy the car while you're here today? But actually, guess what you told the customer's subconscious mind? Number one, you've told them there's more money up my sleeve. I haven't given you the best deal to start with. So all that trust rapport that you built up over the last hour and a half, in one foul swoop, you've just told the salesperson, hey, I'm a scumbag salesperson. Make sure you check this price with someone else before you go ahead and buy. Okay? Hey, is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? That's the concern with that one. Number two concerns, though, is it smells like desperation. And being rude and crude here for a second, but back in our single days, if you're ever desperate in that nightclub situation, oh, and by the way, sorry, if you're under 30, that's how we used to meet people in the olden days when I was a teenager, okay? But if you're ever desperate, did it ever work? No, of course not, because desperation is ugly and it pushes people away. It's that desperation. Hey, is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? That's where that desperation comes out. Here's the third problem. The customers give you a silly figure. Is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? Yeah, give me 14 grand for my car. It's actually worth 10. Yeah, make the payment 300 a month and you're at 550 a month. Yeah, make the balance to change 28 grand. Okay, I'll do it. And you're at 35. What happens is the customers give you that silly figure because you started it. But what we do as salespeople, we start thinking that customer's stupid. They're on drugs. That'll never work. So actually, don't just say, hey, is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? We might ask that question in a slightly different way. Now, if you go back and have a look at the podcast, there's lots of different examples on how to deal with the customer says, I want to think about it. In fact, I think we trained 14 last count, depending on the type of customer you got there and what your type of salesperson you are. So instead of saying, hey, is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? You might try one of the other 14. Go and have a look at it. Go and have a look at that sales fitness program. We might say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'd hate to think you leave here. You get to the traffic lights. You turn around to one another and you say, you know what? If only I'd done such and such, we would have gone ahead with that. If only they'd done X, Y, Z, we would have gone ahead with that. Just so you don't have to have that conversation at the traffic lights. Why are you here, Mr. and Mrs. Customer? What would that such and such be? Now, I'm probably still saying, is there anything I can do to get you to buy the car while you're here today? But actually, without it being that desperation or tell them they've got more money up their sleeve, okay? Or try one of the other 13 that we've got here and go back through on the podcast and have a listen to them. You'll find lots of good ideas there. Here's another thing that's quite bad to say to a salesperson. No, sorry, a customer. I should say that the right way around. And again, I bet you hear this day in, day out. You offer the deal for the customer at £40,500 for their trade-in. and the customer says, oh, I want more than 14 and a half, on the tip of your tongue, do you want to say, what we hope to get for it? Yeah, it's logical again, doesn't it? I hear that every week in car dealership. So what we hope to get for it? But guess what you've just told the customer? There's more money up our sleeve, okay? And that's where customers give you their fairy tale asking figure, not their true liking figure, or what they would eventually accept. So when someone says 14,500 for our car, we've got to justify our deals first. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, we work within a market. We don't create the market. Hey, please bear in mind that 14,500 for your car is allowing for the 2 alloy wheels to be refurbished, because we haven't got that alloy cover on your car that you will have on the new car. It's also allowing for that scuff down the side. Hey, if I was keeping the car, I'd put up with that. If someone's buying the car, they probably want that done before they buy the car. Also, it's allowing for someone to get it through that NCT test that's coming up, or that MOT, or that roadworthy certificate that's coming up. Okay. It's also someone's going to have to pay GST or VAT on any profit they make. Having said that, we might have a little bit of room to move. It might be a gesture. Realistically, what we hope to get for your car, what, 14.6, 14.7, something like that? Oh, I want at least 15. So you get their true liking figure, not the fairy tale figure. So don't just say what we hoping to get for it. Justify first, and then maybe condition the offer. Realistically, what we hoping to get for what? 14.6, 14.7? That puts some parameters around the counter offer and helps stop the customer give you that high, silly asking, fairy tale asking figure. Another one, when they say, oh, I've got a lot better deal down the road from Ma and Pa Toyota. On the tip of your tongue, do you want to say, what are they offering you? How much better? What are the chances they tell you the truth? Okay. Almost you're inviting a lie. Again, you might justify. Now, listen, keep the money right here. It's not the easiest part of my job, especially on these used cars, because in the internet world, if we're not on the front page of Auto Trader, we just don't get the inquiry. But listen, having said that, can I ask you, if all things were equal, if the figures were there or thereabouts, which used car would you really prefer to own? It sounds like a gamble. That's one of the safest gambles you'll ever make. Because if the other used car was cheaper and they preferred it, they just go and buy it. They say, okay, thanks for that. Definitely food for thought. But when someone says, hold on, down the road, I'll go a car a lot cheaper than that, they're saying, but I prefer yours. So when you say, hey, but listen, if all things were equal, if the figures were there or thereabouts, which car would you really prefer to own? I promise you, more than 9 times out of 10, they'll say yours. Then we paint the customer in the corner and say, hey, really, why do you say that? I promise you, this is what you'll hear. Well, listen, your car has got 20,000 miles on it, and theirs had 38. Well, yours is a lovely silver color, and theirs was something they called 90-day blue. Okay. Well, yours is the lovely bling bling model, and theirs was something they called the poverty pack. Okay. Well, yours is a lovely one owner car, and theirs was owned by a Dutch lady, a Mrs. Hertz Van Heyer. Okay. Or you hear this all the time. Okay. Well, yours is from a franchise dealership, and theirs was from someplace called Fred in a Shed. And then we say, listen, I can understand that. I prefer to buy a car with 20,000 miles on it as opposed to 38. I'd prefer to buy a car in that lovely silver color as opposed to that doom blue. I'd prefer to buy from a franchise dealership as opposed to that independent. Because our group, we sell probably about 500 cars every month. We send them to an auction because they're cars that don't hit our high standard criteria. People who buy those tend to be the independent buyers. So tell me, if you can just be a touch flexible on that high mileage, the high mileage car, the rental car, the wrong color, the one from the independent, I'll go to my boss and see if she can be a touch flexible, and let's get you the car that you'd really prefer. So balance the change, are they talking about what, 17.6, 17.5, something like that? No, they're doing it for 17. At least you stop the lie. Guys, if you want more ideas on this, okay, this will about do it for today, but there's so many things we hear day in, day out in the dealership all the time. Okay, and we think, hold on, let's just tweak it. Last one, we can't do it for that. What would you buy that? You tell anyone in the world they can't do something. What's natural human reaction? Tell me I can't. Let me find someone who can. You give them a challenge. Hey, what would you buy it at? What would you deal at? Okay, people don't want to feel like they've been dealt. You think someone thinks they've, have you ever heard a family friend say, oh, I was dealt on this kitchen. Oh, we were dealt on that bathroom installation. We were dealt on that plasma screen TV. People like to own. They don't like to feel like they're being dealt, or they don't like to buy. You might turn around and say, hey, Mr. Customer, that's just not feasible. How flexible can you be? Guys, selling is all about the words we use, okay? And throughout all our training, it's all about the words we use. Yes, the process is important, but words really do influence people. On our training courses, the amount of times we'll grab someone and say, hey, how much would you like to earn over the next 12 months? Invariably, this person says 50, 60, 70, whatever it is. I use one word. Say, realistically. I drop my tone of voice. My hand, for the people watching this, comes down. Realistically. I promise you, 9 times out of 10, that person says, at least 50. You'd be amazed how often they drop 10, 20, sometimes 30,000 pounds by using one word. Careful of the words that we use with our customers, okay? Go and have a look at the book, Words That Sell Cars, and that book is full of all these different examples. Anyway, that about does it for now. This is a quick episode. You might want to share it with your salespeople in the dealership, and I'll see you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn.